Hey, well, look, thanks for joining, everyone. Paul, how'd you like to share your screen? And we'll just sort of run through a couple of things, nice things that Paul's been working on. So I'm thinking there's a couple of things that we can go through. I'll sort of talk so that we slow Paul down a little bit, so that I can keep up.
Are you seeing that screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Everyone see it? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the first things is this came out of Bundy, out of Michelle and Andy and the guys there. This was for the daily driver check sheet and also for the work order check off checklist. So what there are two things that came up. One was that their safety auditors wanted to look at it from a point of view of any of the checks being actually checked off. Now, we had that sort of negative positive, as in you sign it off and you've done it all, as opposed to check it off. There's always that argument that just going check is just check. So I don't know what the right way, but if a safety person says this is the better way, then we'll just go with that. But anyway, we'll have a look. Paul's built a new component, and it also will apply. So this is a Formbird component, if you like, that Paul's built over the last week or two, that is looking at those couple of areas. And we can use it, of course, like any other Formbird component throughout the app. So why don't you fire away and just have a look at this? So do you want to fire one up?
Yeah. So this checklist is driven from information related to the asset. So for a Caterpillar, you'll have a different set of checks than, say, a Hyundai. And it just grabs all of that information that's related to that and creates this list, which is your list of the name of the check. There's an opportunity to add comments and whether a pass or fail or not applicable for each item in that list. So like Mark said, it was just basically a list of checks where for the daily driver was basically was a check whether something failed or not. So basically, you would just check if something failed. Like Mark said, it's always hard to know kind of what's the best way to do this. In my view, it's probably easier for a bloke to check one thing and say that's the thing that failed, rather than check everything and identify the thing that failed. So, so I mean, you could use this either way. I guess that's the beauty of it. And so this
Paul, can I just mention something there?
Yep, go ahead.
Exactly what you've just said. We've trialled it for quite some time now with our staff, and the feedback's been really good around the fact that they didn't have to, it was just that one checkpoint at the bottom. So
yeah, so you could still use it that way. Basically, just if something fails, you would check the F here for fail, and just use it the same way, or you can check the lot. So I guess it covers both bases, which is good. Because you don't want to sort of, it will depend on how your business wants to operate. So that's fine.
What a little bit of feedback I gave Paul, and I hope it's of interest, is that we'll look at making the actual comment or name of the check a link that we can link through to, so that you could also then have further details. So if the check needs either additional documentation or an image, you got to go and check the Wadangle. We can then have an image of the Wadangle or something on there.
Right. Yeah. I did that this morning. So there's the check question's been updated with notes and uploads, so you can add that there. And I had this functioning, but I wanted to organise like a proper release, and it wasn't finished. I took that out, but it's just a hyperlink to make that a hyperlink to there. I think what I'll end up doing is make that a modal box that just sits over the top, rather than opening up a separate window for the information, because you could end up with like multiple windows everywhere. So that's probably not ideal.
I think that's a great idea, Paul, because when the technician's actually looking at it, they're only doing sort of generally, you know, one item at a time. And if they needed to know more, having a modal pop up as opposed to another tab opening would just reduce those number of tabs.
Yeah, look, I had it working this morning, Michelle, but I just didn't. I hadn't finished it, and I'm trying to get some annual leave next week, so I didn't want to leave it half finished. So.
And at the end of the meeting, we all vote whether he's allowed to go on leave.
I can see sometime in the future, not important right now, but I think we will slowly start to move where we can almost embed a video into something like this, so that if it's a new operator or they've forgotten the checks, we'll do a video of how to do their daily checks when we berth the asset.
Yep. And
hopefully they can refer to it through this form.
Yep. Cool. Also, Paul can show that it's actually responsive design as well, so it come down.
Yeah. So part of the problem, and Anthony knows this well. I did some redesign work on the daily driver check for based on some of his comments. You know, it's really difficult to use on the phone. So this falls down into a nicer list where the check is above and the description comments and pass fails is below. So that should make it usable. It's too much information, too wide to fit on a phone. So
that's great, Paul, because look, a large number of technicians use it in landscape way, that they're tablets. Some of them use it in portrait, and one of them rang me one day and said, "How do I know what I'm checking off?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Which way are you holding it?" And he had a portrait, and he couldn't see what, you know, the particular item. He turned it landscape and saw it all. So now that that's designed so that it can, you know, make it smaller and larger, that will be probably solve that problem for him.
Yeah, that's good. For the this is the supervisor view of the daily driver check sheet. The other thing I did for Anthony was basically take off all the panels for the operator view. So when the operator logs in, he gets a different view.
He or she,
yeah. They get a different view, and so I've taken all the panels off, which leaves a lot more space on the phone. So it brings everything kind of closer to the edge, so that it should be a bit easier to use. There's some sort of informational data about the progress of the work order, progress of the request. If it does turn into a request, that's now hidden for the operator view. That's been the main set. Oh, the library. We did some work based on a request from Michelle and team about document library.
Paul's put an auto reply in his email to Michelle now.
Thanks, Michelle. I got your email.
Received message, gone away.
It's a full algorithm suite now.
Absolutely. It's all AI'd up. Yes, Michelle.
So this is a list of library documents. This was something I sort of put in for the water application guys in Bundaberg. So it's migrated itself across to the fleet, which is good. This is a document which captures the image. You can link it to an asset. You give it a name and a type and the option to add to the library. So it can be linked to the asset. It can be added to the library or both. And you're able to, and there's a selector for multiple assets if you need to link to multiple. So you can sort of do something like that and then link. And it creates links to all of these assets. And I can add it to the library and put a note.
So, Paul, I responded to your Mantis ticket about that, and sort of when I had a stakeholder meeting about this that you've done, we were sort of put it to you that if there's a multiple asset scenario, which obviously there is in this particular case, by default, you would really want it linked to the library so that there's really one, it's picking that one picture or file that it links to, rather than one. If it's one item, then you can either have an option, because we might have one item that we want to upload something, and then next week we're buying a similar type, and then we want to have it obviously in the library. Is that possible to, if it's a multi-select asset scenario or in a multi-link asset, that by default it should be add to library and using, whether using your memory pointer or not, I don't know how you work it, rather than multiple items?
Yes, I saw that note. I'm not that keen on automating that, because it basically means that if you didn't want that automation, someone would need to untick it and remember to untick it. I'm not quite sure whether that's a viable scenario or not, but what I've done instead is put a warning. So document links are missing, so it's going to be an orphan, and I've put a in the library a place to show orphans, so any orphan images, which I think would address the issue of the orphan image.
And then if we have an orphan image, is it easy then, by identifying that, to add it to the list of the library that might be with those other images or document, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so it's just this is just it's basically define an orphan image by the absence of the add to library or a link.
Yeah.
So as soon as it's missing this information, it's designated as orphaned, and then so you can then open that. If you've got orphan documents, you can open them and make them not orphans, I guess. Does that solve the problem?
I think I'll have to have a dig and play in there. Is that in test or just in dev at the minute?
That's in test.
Okay. We'll have a play. If you've made some changes, then we'll retest that and have a look at it.
Yep. They appear also in the asset images. There may or may not be one for this particular asset. Oh, there is. There you go. So these are the documents that have been linked to this asset, and you can filter for library documents. So this is the document that's linked to the asset and the library.
So when you have a document, mainly a document, not so much an image, a document ticked as library, is that document replicated across all those assets, or it literally is in one location and you might have a memory pointer to that from all the assets?
It's only in the library. You need to link the assets.
So yes, it's absolutely. It's just a single link. It's just a link back to each asset, but a single image.
Because
so if you update the description or update the image, it updates them all in effect because there's a link.
Okay, so like when we have like manuals, that the technicians use, some of them are quite like, hundreds and hundreds of pages, right? So again, we want to upload, that one, link it as a library item to, it could be like 65 assets. And that's what I was interested to know, is it just that one document that you're saving?
Just that one.
You are just pointing to that. So you upload once and it's only changing in one location.
So you could upload the 2020 and then the 2021 and either have them both there, or delete one and have just the 2021 manual.
So have you made it, because I know when we were testing, we could upload obviously multiple items in that space there. Have you designed it in a manner of having multiple, like the manuals, for example, multiple items listed and naming it accordingly? Or have you designed it in the way of having literally one attachment per image or whatever?
You can have multiple attachments. That's valid. There's nothing to stop you adding more and more of these.
Because you might have a library of images that are showing some, a round of asset or something or whatever. Or you might have three manuals with, a manual with two appendices, which makes up that document.
Yep.
This grid, this display grid will only display one out of that set though, because there's really no way to sort of do that nicely in a grid if you've got, because I don't know how long the array would be. So you might have one or you might have 100. If you had 100, you just blow this grid to pieces, really. So and the functionality that you wanted for viewing sort of the image couldn't really do that very easily with
We like the fact that you did that, and also that the fact you added that link into it, and so it downloads the item. So that was also really great. You notice that you've added that.
The download is browser dependent. I think it's a setting in the browser how you want to open that link. I think some browsers will open it in another window, and others will download it. Mine downloads it. I think it's browser dependent. Now, I don't think, as far as I know, there's no way for me to control that. So just have.
Is there a size limit? Is there a size limit per record, so to speak?
Well, the size limit in terms of the image.
Yep.
Per image upload is 50 megabytes.
I think we've just extended to 200 meg, but yeah.
I did test a 101 megabyte item the other day, and it went up okay.
Yeah, it'll go up to 200. It's a setting we set on the proxy server to make sure, it's kind of not open, so people just don't accidentally load up a
terabyte.
500 meg terabyte. So.
Oh, that's interesting, because there's another setting in the configuration document which is set at 50.
Sorry, there is also that one as well.
Yeah. So it's interesting that they got the 100 in.
I uploaded an MP4 against a work order after you sent me that message via Mantis to say we change it to 200, and I just grabbed something and uploaded it. And look, it took a bit of time, but it did upload.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So we're good on that. What's next on, Paulie?
I was just going to ask Paul, can you show the checklist in a PM service? The pass fail.
Yep. I'll have to find one with a checklist in it and see if that one's got one. This is the dev environment, so it's all a little bit messy in terms of what's actually around. No checks on that.
Try 24964.
Oh no, that's not. 2496 is pretty broken.
Assets.
2496 is pretty broken in here now.
So this is a dev, not test. So 249 followers ago.
2496 is our garbage truck, isn't it, Andrew?
It is. Yeah. It gets hammered.
It's never working.
Okay. So that's PM service there, Andrew. So it's got the category. It's sorted alphabetically by category. I haven't put a sort in this new component. That's sort of more of a grid table type of arrangement, and this didn't kind of fit in with it. So, but I sorted them by alphabetical for category for this particular thing.
That makes sense for a technician to come in like that, and alphabetical by category.
It will depend on the tech a little bit.
Okay.
I think we'll give it a go and see what the feedback is.
Yep.
I suppose if you end up with multiple categories, at least they'll group them together. So if you group them nicely, if you reduce the category numbers down to, areas of activity, engine, transmission,
Yeah, and this column was on the left too, so it's now now it's on the right of the check. So there's just a little bit of a UI change, but yeah, I'm not certain how I could implement a sort for this at this point in time. I'd probably need a bit of work.
Look, we'll give it a go. We'll get feedback from them, and it's going to be helpful at the moment anyway, because when in the previous version, just simply the boolean on or off when they were ticking something, when it would come back unticked, the question was, well, did you do it or not? And one of our technicians said, well, I don't even have the machine, so I can't do it, which is how it came about the not applicable. And right. that indicates that, yes, they've done it, but it's not relevant to that particular item.
Yep. That was the NA. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we've done it.
I tried sort of pass fail in here, but it all got a little bit, too messy and crowded. So it's PF and NA.
That's right. I'm sure they can work out. That's good. That looks really good.
Now, Paul, one thing, do you want to, are you in, can we just have a quick look at that report stuff, like in the, like the one that Adam did for the Philippines? Oh, that's the other bit of news. We've kicked off a project in the Philippines now for the Philippine government.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
How many days have you not slept for now, Paul?
What sleep?
Well, he's a FIFO. He goes from his bedroom to his lounge room, and it's 7 days on, 7 days off.
His trip away is actually to the Philippines.
Yeah, that's right. That's second prize.
So here's a component I made for the guys in the Philippines. It's a QR code that's full of data extracted from the document. So I think there's things like the accountable office is included in it, and the category and make and model, I think, all live in that QR code. And Adam did some really good work on a print version of this, because I needed to be able to sort of print it. So just cancel that. So
I'll press print and pull up the printed version.
I've got to walk all the way to the kitchen to get the printer.
Oh, no. Print to the local PDF.
No, I have to do that.
I was just going to say that there's a couple of nice things that happens with the print now with that, is that it the file name matches the name, which is cute. Go PDF at the top there, Paulie, on your description, on the devices, destination.
All right. Oh, there. Okay.
Yeah.
PDF.
Because normally when it goes to PDF, it goes all skew-if, unless you a lot of formatting.
And what you see, the file name is actually the name of the summary name, which I thought was very smart.
Yeah, that's good.
So the naming is, basically gives you a good name. It's not some rubbish name, and then it's formatting beautifully.
Oh, that's looking really good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So that QR code that gets printed onto the stuff on the machine. So
I suspect so. They're going to put a QR code on the machine, are they, Mark, and then scan it?
I think it's a bit weird, this one. I think this is like part of their certification stuff. It's actually a bit different. We obviously that we can do very easily is actually take the URL and put the URL on there, whatever that URL is, straight to the vehicle asset or whatever it might be. But these guys were after, is that right? Because you were just pointing out what data is embedded in that QR.
Yeah, so there's no actual link to the to Formbird in there. It's basically just data about the vehicle. So I'm not really sure what the purpose was, to be honest. They wanted a QR code. I got them a QR code. So.
They wanted a QR code with this data, so we made a QR code with that data.
That's about it, yeah.
I mean, honestly, a link would be unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that's very easy, Andy. So that's really easy with the URL. That's part of the beauty of really part of the Google progressive design is the fact that our links go back to anywhere in the application, whether it be a blank template or the actual asset or whatever it might be. it takes you back to wherever that is. So that QR codes can become very relevant.
Yeah. Well, people should know how to use them now.
Yeah. Well, Australians good. The Japanese have been good for the last 5 years or 20 years.
Yeah.
What we thought we'd do also is that this is really coming up to some of the work that Paul's been doing with the FAST guys. And just, I suppose, some of the guys have sort of seen it, like the guys at Bundy, but we're just, I hope that anyway, a bit more work's being done on it. So what we're looking at here is actually the purchasing process in terms of implementing the ability to basically manage that whole pre-birthing purchasing cycle. So what it's about now, it's coming from the fleet as a service point of view. So you can sort of imagine that there's probably one extra layer than what our council guys need, because the organisation will kind of always be yourself on your, but you can imagine really we've got an extra layer here, which is actually kind of the customer who's potentially purchasing. So if you could just almost ignore that organisational level, but I'll just give you an overview of the process, and Paul can sort of flick through it a little bit, and we'll just step through it a bit. So the whole concept here is basically is that you as an organisation want to go out and get a bunch of quotes from so you've got a set of specs, what we would call specs, which is, I want these types of assets quoted on, whether it be many of one thing or a type of one thing or a specific asset type, a specific manufacturer and model and everything else. So you've got a group of specs that's coming under this one quote that you want to send out to a group of dealers, in effect, to quote on, and then you want to manage that whole process. So it's quite complex if you think of all of the variables and all of the multiples that are in there, because you've got not just you've got the spec, you've got the dealer coming in, the dealer's got to look at the spec and then quote against it, and there's also against each of the specs is what Paul's saying head down is there's the actual definition of the spec, which will be items that you'll want in that asset, but then the dealer or the supplier may actually add to it. They've got a specific option, that is going to be, and they may actually give two quotes on that one spec because they actually want to say, well, if you get the red one, it's this price, you get the green one, it's this price, or you get the 200 PSI one or whatever it might be. So there might be also variants on those items quoted. So Paul, if you perhaps just go to the top, and we'll just step through it a bit, and we can just talk through. So what we're looking at here is really the whole picture, and the whole picture is really the organisation, which is really one of you guys in effect, apart from for our FAST guys. The assignment, okay, Paul, I'll let you start going through it, and I'll slow you up when you start to get too fast.
Okay. Organisation details. This is sort of the view of this is for a dealer. They get a cut down view of this, but this information is kind of, the organisation is basically linked to every document along the way, so it can track back who was actually buying the thing. So this is organisation stuff here.
And I suppose in a council world, it could be a department. You could say that's a department, for instance, if you manage it at a department level. So
assignment and status is basically where this spec is up to, and there's an overall quote which can have multiple specs. So the overall quote's got a set of statuses and an assignment. So somebody manages the whole lot, and it's very much in the request and work order model, whereas you have like the request, which is the grouping of work orders. So the quote is the grouping of specs. And so the spec has, a set of statuses, put in like some nice little checky things here, which turn up as, ticks over here, which is kind of cool. Against the spec, a dealer will provide quotes. And so there's a link to the dealer quotes that have been quoted against this spec. against this spec, there'll be a set of charges which indicate sort of like the amount that the customer is going to be paying for this vehicle and for the maintenance and operation of this vehicle. Andrew Murrie, step in if I'm getting it wrong.
You're doing well. I'm just I'm waiting for you to breathe, but you're doing well.
So there can be multiple. So for a spec, you can have multiple quotes, and there can be multiple assets for that spec, which may have multiple charges. So you can have, you might say we're going to buy 20, but 10 will be charged at this rate, and another 10 will be charged at a different rate. That's what these vehicle charge documents represent. There's the profile and spec. So this is, what we want to buy. It's got some standard fields. We want a Hyundai model, make, body type, etc., etc. Some notes. This is a new component that we've made specifically for this. I made it in a generic way so it can be reused. I haven't kind of found another use for it yet, but it's sitting there waiting. So this is basically, if you know our related document component, where we have a set of separate documents that appear in a drop-down list. That's what these lists are. So there's a set of documents that are definable elsewhere for what appears in this list. This list is pre-populated, as you can see, but you can define this component just to say it just with a blank single line with a selector here that says I want to select from the list. This has all been selected. Against the related document, there's a description, and it might be very familiar because you've just seen this same component basically, which I tore this component apart and made the PFNA checklist from this one. So, so the description and a value that someone's going to record costs against it, and a total down the bottom. So this will go through. This component goes through and makes totals. And there's a GST which is hidden from here, a GST sort of calculation as well, which we can expose.
Yeah.
If the dealer wants to put in extra stuff, we can keep adding bits to it. And so I think this will be quite useful in terms of in future where users, you want kind of like an endless checklist, if you like. So you don't have it defined, you want to be able to sort of add more things. So that's what this can do. All of these columns are definable, so I can hide the value, I can hide the description, and I can have this basically assembled in any way so that you can have the related information against either a description and no total, or just description and total. It's kind of set it up that way.
I was just going to say the value that we saw actually out of doing this is when that specification is established and we're sending it off to the defined dealers, you actually have a really strong audit trail, so that every time you want to go back and look at those quotes and what they've delivered, that audit history is just going to become very important to ensure that everyone's doing the right thing, and you've got a validity for the next step without errors being made. Because what we've seen in the past, and Tim who's on the call can rightly point out, when you get emails and invoices going back and forth trying to get the best price for deals or the best offer, it's amazing how many errors actually occur. So this is a way of actually just trying to remove those errors and actually get a bit more probity around the right selection for the vehicle. So, yeah.
The audit trail, thanks Andrew, because the audit trail behind this, I'm recording the user who made the change for each item and the date that the item was changed. So, you'll be able to go back and say, well, you said, who said it was $2,000? And then we've got that record in the back end of this that we can extract if we need to.
Yeah. Just one thing there, Paul. Usually it'll be the dealer that gets populated by the dealer making the quote.
Yeah.
When we tick on the winning quote, it's just populates.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll get to the quote next, Duncan. That's
Yeah,
good.
sorry.
So this is an insurance.
Stop getting so excited, Duncan.
There's a stack load of calculations in here, in behind here, which does most of this stuff automatically based on a few inputs. Always fun to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Paul loved it.
Yeah, I love it.
We made him do it 3 times because he loved it so much.
I'm getting good at it now.
Wow.
So the dealer quote, the dealer will see something similar and provide a quote in the same sort of manner. This is a winning quote. So we've got a nice big green banner that says I'm the winner. And that's defined here.
So that tick box is, so when we've actually, you look at the quotes, it'd be someone like Tim, who's on the call, they'd actually be looking at the different quotes and be able to say, yep, we believe that this is the right price. And the winning quote is not just on price, it might be about also when that vehicle's available for delivery. It might be extra things that the dealer's prepared to add, but they'll put it into the paperwork. And we define at the bottom there, look, what's the reason for the quote being selected? So that, again, that audit trail of who's making that decision defines the reason, so that when we go back in 2 or 3 years and auditors come back and actually want explanations of particular pricing, you've got that certainty. So
yeah, and this all came about because of one of Tim's colleagues, Ali Lewis. She had to go back and find out from an auditor why they purchased vehicles for one of their very large clients about 3 years ago, and you can imagine how much time that took.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So bump back up to the quote, the overall quote. This one has got to the stage where there's been vehicles created. So these vehicles are created in a processing state. In terms of the fleet guys, these are like pre-vehicle vehicles, I guess. They're not actually, you can't assign, they're out of like the workflow of normal vehicles. They only become actual vehicles when they're active.
So it's a virtual vehicle at the moment that's pre-birthed. So we don't have, or it's not becoming a physical vehicle, but we've actually at a point now, it's gone from accepting a quote. Now, this is the design of a particular vehicle, as in this is going to be one that will eventually be delivered. So now we're going to start tracking. We're tracking now from the point of actually moving from the virtual to the real, and it flipping from that to that asset that now gets maintained. So essentially, we're taking it through that end process from the quote through to the delivery and getting a pre-delivery check and then, completing it. And then it becomes the maintainable asset.
So it looks very much like a normal asset. This is slightly different. There's some extra stuff for the fast guys. But you'll recognise that as a...
Now, you've got to show that summary, Paul. I'm going to show that summary.
I'm working my way down the page, right? Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'm getting excited now.
You're right.
Getting excited.
So winning quotes. So this is at the point, this quote's at the point basically for customer sign off, I guess. All the things been done. We've created some prototype assets and pending assets. Now the customers needs to basically say, yep, that's precisely what I want to buy. So we've produced this report, which is which draws all of the information together for each asset. So this is per asset, per spec, per vehicle charge, and assembles it in a nice table that the customer can then sign off on at the end.
That was my signature. Don't copy it.
I've seen that before.
And this one's got a print view as well.
Just taking a screenshot of that signature.
Now, this is another little feature that Paul cracked yesterday. He showed me again.
So paging, I didn't know very much. I don't know much about printing at all because I really only really never been requested to do anything like this before. So worked out how to make sort of pages, which probably not groundbreaking stuff. It's probably quite obvious, but learning something new every day. So it's a summary with one quote per vehicle, one vehicle per page, and the sign off at the bottom. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the fast stuff. There's been a lot of work going into that.
Well done.
And I just so what actually happens with that when you actually a client signing off on that, and an organisation internally is signing it off, you then have the ability to take it straight to a dealer automatically and say, here is your purchase orders agreed, and with all the core details of that data in there. So the complete audit trail right through has been established, and what we'll find, it just reduces the error rate dramatically.
The other thing that's quite complex in this setup is we're having multiple parties log in who need siloed information. So you don't want one business being able to see how much another business is paying for their cars. So the permission keys around this, there's been a lot of work going to sort of adding, removing, changing permissions based on who can see what, and trying to keep all of this information in its own little silo. And that's also on top of keeping it out of the workshop as well. So the workshop doesn't really have any business in terms of viewing what a business paid for its vehicles. So this fleet app, so built on top of the fleet application with all its set of permissions, is an overriding set of permissions, which is basically separating out all of the data for each business as well. So it's getting a bit hairy, but kind of managing. Yeah,
Mark,
it's kind of a similar approach that we'll need to take. There's been a little bit of work done in terms of external contractors in fleet. It's the same sort of approach that needs to be taken for those guys. So your external workshops, where they'll need a view of certain pieces of information to be able to do their work on an asset. There is some that exists in fleet. It's not been widely tested yet, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Hey, thank you, Paul.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, now we've just about finished. Well, I suppose any comments or feedback or questions about that? Obviously, it's sort of quite a complex process, and there's a lot of other stuff in there. Doing that quick demo didn't really give some of the finer points of it all, but I'd be interested to see if anyone's got any comment or feedback.
Are you guys live with that at the moment?
Heavy testing mode, I would say, very heavy. So I know I don't know when Paul was thinking about his break, but I'm definitely a no for that break. So
I'm a yes for the break, but we've got lots of ideas for you when you get back.
yeah.
Yes, I'm expecting that would be a very common answer.
Yeah.
You can't go on a break yet, Paul, until we roll this stuff out, what we're waiting on.
No, that's true. So that's going to happen this afternoon, Michelle. If after your chat with Adam,
Yep.
let me know. The other thing I've been working on too, which is kind of boring for you guys, but you'll benefit from it, is the ability to do production or rollouts on from the front end. Because normally what we would do is we would shut the system down, basically, delete all of the templates, all of the information that we need to upgrade, make a copy out of dev, and then push it all back in. And database stuff is always scary.
Oh.
because you can easily stuff things up. So I've been working on a way to do front end updates, so an export out of one system and an import into the other. All of the test environments have been updated that way today. I've been working on that for a fair chunk of this week. I think it's pretty good. We're going to have a go with it with your production upgrade, Michelle.
All right. So look, does everyone need to be logged out for this, or does it matter?
It doesn't really matter, although we will need to do a system restart for this instance to when you did that test with the 100 meg stuff, was that in production or not?
No, in test.
Yes.
In test. Yeah, and it was against a I don't know, some random work order that I selected, and I had some video that I took of just out the window, and it was 101 megabytes. And it did take a while to upload, so you did have to wait for it, but that's a significant amount of data, but it did save to it.
Okay, so that change has been made in test. You could probably do a similar test in production, actually. Sorry.
Right.
So you could do a similar test in production, and that would tell me whether we need to restart the system this afternoon or not.
Okay. I do have a 184 megabyte MP4 that I do need to. I'll try and find the asset that was the garbage trucks.
Yeah, we were getting problems around 50 meg, I think. So if you if you didn't want to wait for 184 meg upload, you could probably just use the 50 and just delete it later.
Sure, I'll give it a shot. So yeah, but what I'd like to do then, Paul, if that's the case, is I need to go through with Adam this afternoon about what we just the other thing before, the definitions. But I'd like to then, if possible, rather than this afternoon, is actually say tomorrow to upload, so I can actually send comms out to everybody to say, hey, by the way, tomorrow make sure you log out. So then it can be then there's no issue of anyone being in it. Would that work for you for your timing?
Yeah, if you want.
Guys, I might get you guys to talk about this later.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
we're
heading too much on a project.
True. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one day leave. It's 1 day leave, Paul. That'll be fine. I mean, just
Yeah, just cut it short.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Now, I just thought I'd
something that
one more, just one more. Steak knives.
Have we got Brad and from Tenterfield here?
No, Brad accepted, but I thought Brad accepted. Anyway, just go ahead and I'll send him the video.
It's applicable to Anthony. There's been some changes to the account management, which should make it a lot easier to set up users. Instead of having to sort of set up all of the permission keys, I've grouped them into what's called a role document, and you basically, instead of having to sort of set it all up, you can add a Formbird app role, and grab that, and it does all the permission keys, does the menu, sets up all the permission keys and everything for the user based on the role that you select. So it just takes all of the sort of add the CRUD key and this key and that key and everything in the account control document. So it's really just that. It also, based on this role, does some changes to the view here, so that some of the fields become mandatory that are sort of required for that particular role. So there's less confusion about how to sort of set up a user, which I hope will
looks
help.
good, Paul.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that.
Great.
Now, Sean, being the, I hope we haven't sort of scared you away.
No, I haven't scared you away. It's been to see a bit of a snapshot of the capabilities and that. So, anyway, we've got a long way to go yet.
I'll mark it. I think maybe for next time we might be in a position where we discuss some of the safety stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, just with the stuff we're collecting on the telematics and actually where that's sort of going to end up going, I think that's probably useful to everyone as a collective group.
That would be good. And that's where I think we can start to have different topics and subjects and what have you. David's there too. He disappeared on me for a minute.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Did you want to throw anything in, or?
The only question I had on that, the last segment, obviously, it looked like, obviously, pre-buying, as you call it, pre-birthing. Was that similar to, for a council, for example, we put in I call it a design brief into our MAV, Municipal Association Victoria, and they have vendor panel, and then the dealers quote on it based on the spec, or you go through someone like Procurement Australia, or you can run a public tender yourself. Is that similar to what you're doing, but it's obviously all linked in the system?
I suppose the vendor panel guys are more generic in the sense that, you stick a document up there and people respond to that, and you're managing the high level process. This is really managing it right down to the spec of the vehicle and the options in the vehicle, and that whole process at a very asset specific process. So you can say, yes, we are, but I suppose it's a complete level or two levels down, because we're getting right down to, I want the orange carpet.
Yeah. Okay. Can I was going to suggest, because I use a document that I've had in this business and in previous, my design brief, which goes down to that level. Maybe I can share that with you, Mark. And
yeah, absolutely.
Is that something? Because what I'd be interested is having that or similar, or what you got. It doesn't matter how it looks, but have that data, and then I can create it within the Formbird platform and have it, rather than at the moment I've got it in Word that gets different versions, as you mentioned, as you talk to the operators, they go, no, I want a blue one, no, I want a white one. And
look, from a council point of view, it needs obviously a different look at it. And I know Andrew we did a bit of a preview of this to the Bundy guys a week or two ago, and there was some good feedback on that in terms of the approach. So we probably need to have we thought we'd just throw this out there for the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely worth looking at.
This is the sort of feedback would be good. If you've already got ideas, we know that it's not going to be 100% applicable. Yeah. But we're really just saying, look, hey, I don't know whether it's interesting. If it really is interesting, how do we kind of get it going? What do we need to do? What are the differences? It's a sort of thing that we can, have you jump into one of the test environments and just have a play with.
Yeah. It's not to me, it's not, mission disabling at the moment, but that'd be a nice thing to have if you had it all linked, and all the good things around, you change this, what was the version, has the operators signed off on it, because what I like to do is you go, well, what do you want? We want, a truck with the lot, and then, within budget, and then it's like, well, okay, sign off on this, both from the operator, the supervisor, and then the supplier. So, when it's delivered 6 months later, whatever lead times, they go, well, no, we didn't ask for that. We asked for that. Well, hang on a minute. You signed for this.
Yes. Yeah, look, I suppose because it's such a new kind of function, I don't think anyone, Andrew, you'd probably know. Do you know of anyone who's been doing this sort of stuff?
No
Andrew Bundaberg?
Yeah, Andrew Bundaberg.
I don't know to this level, not in council land, but by the sounds of it, our process is very similar to David's, if not exactly the same. So we can see a lot of potential for that. Probably slightly cut down and slightly modified, but I suspect our processes are very similar.
Yeah. So anyway, food for thought for later. I can share you the document, Mark, and then you can have a look and
we can send it around and have a sort of, if it's something interesting, then we'll sort of set up, if you like, a little working group and get feedback. And obviously, we'll get some serious feedback on the actual what's going at the moment, and we'll let Andy and Duncan do the hard work. Get it going first. They can test it.
Yeah, they can develop, and we'll adopt practice.
And live on the back of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it's I suppose I don't understand the internal processes you guys go through and any of the internal restrictions. You know, obviously, it would seem to be a common process going out and purchasing shit and making it and making sure people have done what they're promised. So I'd hope that it'll
there's just a few more hoops and bars with
just a few,
local government
or different
act.
signatories or different approvals or different recording of information or different standard stuff. A lot of that stuff you'll see is that Paul did is all incredibly flexible and all definable. So, you know, if you've got specific set charges or terminology or, you know, government items, then it certainly would, I think that would cater for it straight up.
So Mark, it's if I can comment, that what you've done there, it's brilliant. That's basically 15 years of what we've been doing in PDF version around control documents and what have you. And what you've done here is put it all into one facility, which is amazing. And the flow on, it's not just procurement. You're collecting the whole of life of the vehicle from cradle to grave, but the flow on's even bigger than what most people will realise. So I had a hookup yesterday with the HR director of Arkell, which is one of the fleets that we run. And, you know, what you can the output from what Paul's built there is, you know, it goes into HR, it goes into the framework around here's the specification of the vehicle that this job role is entitled to and things like that. So it's, from my point of view, I'm sitting here watching it going, this is 15 years of us writing, you know, Hanson specification documents and Boral specification documents, and it's all coming into one spot. So it's fantastic.
Oh, good, Tim. Always nice to have positive feedback. I feel really good about it. Thanks, Paul.
You're all welcome. No worries.
We might vote for you. Go on leave for a couple of days.
On.
I think you better give him a holiday, Mark.
Yeah. He's allowed a long weekend. He can have Monday off.
8 hours of undisrupted sleep.
Look, I suppose in the essence of time, we probably went longer on features than what was intended, but I suppose that's nice, and maybe next time will be less features and more discussions.
I think so. I mean, I learned something around the library stuff that I hadn't actually seen before, which I can see being very useful for us. So it's good seeing some of this feature stuff just come up and being there. So, because I know we all see our sort of little world, but, you know, when you open it up, it actually gets us thinking about, the way we do stuff, why are we doing it this way? So I find it very useful. So thank you. Yeah, I mean, the interesting, like the operational expertise that some of the people have on the team, I think actually having it quite a very client focused about the issues you're dealing with becomes important. So when someone like Tim, who works on very big clients, some of the operational stuff he's seen over the years will translate straight over into council stuff. I think having that sort of client focused communication could be really valuable too, because that's when ideas can come back into tech later.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Anyway.
And I think that's handy too, as the information sharing process is understanding the why you might be doing something, because that has driven some of our maintenance items going with our users have been using this and this is the feedback and we need this change, because in the real world, it's not always perfect. Sometimes you have to go back and edit something, and therefore that's what we found. So I think it's great to learn why a change has happened, and it might be something that then you implement and go, we didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Sometime in the future, I'm happy to share some monthly reporting or some of our workflows, or
I was going to quickly give you a few minutes there, Andrew. Do you want to just? I was just going to sort of highlight some of the stuff, or you highlight some of the stuff that you've just there was a few events I think that you shared with us. I thought maybe you could share with the team.
Okay. Look, probably the most significant. We have a fleet of.
Well, you can probably stop sharing the screen.
Yes. 17 garbage trucks here at Bundaberg. We had a garbage truck incident where a garbage truck actually rolled. We thought it just rolled on its side, but it actually did 360 revolutions. Anyway, we got the word, our mechanic went out on site. The driver was taken care of. He made the vehicle safe. And then he started to snap a heap of photos and a video in Formbird. And he was 50 kilometres or more away from the workshop. So what that enabled the workshop supervisor to do was essentially manage that whole accident scene from his desk. So we were able to dispatch another 2 mechanics with clean-up materials, organise a sweeper truck, a tow truck, etc. So we've never had that sort of ability before. Typically, we would rush a heap of people out on site. Less people on site, the better normally. So that was one example. We had another garbage truck hit a car during the week. Not sounding good for us in garbage trucks, but...
Got to have a good week with your garbage trucks.
So once again, Donnie dispatched a mechanic out on site. Mechanic took a heap of photos, and the workshop supervisor was able to have the parts ordered before the mechanic got back to the workshop. So that's really sort of changed our world. Typically by the time, if the mechanic had taken some photographs on a phone or something, we'd have to download the photos, upload them. There'd probably be a gap of, 8 or 10 hours maybe between ordering those parts. But the fact he was on site and could do it in real time meant that those parts were ordered. We haven't been in that situation before. So the technology is allowing us to do that. And they're things that we're learning every week. I don't know how many photos we've taken, but typically we're taking a minimum of 4 photos every PM service. We're taking photos of brakes on garbage trucks with when the wheels come off to show the old ones, mid-job, the new pads installed, and then the brake test results. So all that's been captured against a work order. So from an audit perspective, I think it's very clean what we're doing. Sort of combine that with the maintenance codes and how we're describing our maintenance, we're starting to get a very clean set of data. And that's the kind of thing I'm happy to share with others that, some of our processes, but even it might be interesting to share things like what are the top 10 repair types that different councils experience. So for us, we know that auto electrical repairs at the top of our list all the time. That's driven us to employ an auto electrician, dual trade apprentices. So that's the type of data that I'm wanting to get out of the system to help us sort of drive decisions.
Yeah, one of the ones Andrew shared with me, which was interesting, is that the guys had actually sort of figured out that they'd not just document the break, they were actually documenting the sort of analysis they did to come to the conclusion. So it was almost like a working document on that vehicle, on that problem. So they'd actually described and taken photos and said, look, we did this, we came up with this, and, in the future I'd do this or whatever, so that it actually was a lot more than, the wind angle broke and here's the crack. It actually, that actually had used it as a true piece of documentation, which I thought was, oh, wow, that's good.
I think, Mark, with those images, like the repair gallery, the way the data's set up now, if a truck continuously cuts in for a brake fault, it's been in 4 times over 2 weeks for a brake fault, then obviously there's an inherent fault there that we've missed. But if you go to the image gallery, you can go back and have a look at everything that everyone's done and a description of that. So we're encouraging the mechanics to review that history before they even start the job.
Yeah.
So they've got some intelligence before they go and do anything.
Yeah.
But that's sort of how it's changed for us.
Mark, that information, what you're talking about there, Andrew, is excellent. And the information we're getting from the telematics group, they will be able to do some diagnostic stuff that could feed straight into that to give that preemptive support. So I think that's where it could fit.
That'll become interesting for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, someone that slipped in there that I didn't is Nairi down the back there. Now Nairi's going to star in a video coming to you all shortly.
I haven't seen it yet.
Hey, you haven't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet, so.
I think Nairi's been out. It's probably in their email box.
It's in their email box.
Afternoon, sorry. So.
Nairi, Paul made you look fantastic.
I did.
Not that he needed to.
No. You did a great job.
In fact, I didn't know how much good material we had until I kind of went over it, and then even, you know, people sort of found stuff and said, oh, look at this, we must put this in. Ian, that's Ian, he's saying we should do this. And so, and actually I wanted to just make it about preventative maintenance, but it's now kind of about fleet entirely. So it's Nairi's take on it.
Okay.
Nairi's story.
Nairi, I sent it to you an hour ago.
Oh, thank you.
He's hard at work.
Yeah. Next time I'm bringing my own favourite box. Clearly, I mean, Bundaberg have gone all out there. I can see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Killing me.
Okay, guys. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up for today.
Yeah.
I hope I'll send the video out so anyone who missed out can review it if they so wish. We might even stick it up on our YouTube channel. I'll have a chat to Paul or what have you if no one has any objections. And then anyone can just quickly have a look. But anyway, we'll thanks again, and we'll schedule another time. But Paul's going to have to do some work, so if he might push out by another week or so because he's on leave.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Mark.